Hi, beautiful souls. I'm Elizabeth, and welcome to Untangling the Heart. This time is for you, so grab a cup of coffee or tea or whatever brings you a sense of comfort. Sit back, relax, and settle in. As you listen today, just notice what resonates for you. There may be something here meant just for you. Just take what feels supportive and leave the rest. It's so good to have you here. Today, we're talking about something that sits at the very core of this space, why the heart tangles and why it's not your fault. Let's start with something that you might recognize. There are moments when you feel something inside of you is tight or guarded, or maybe a little harder to access than you like. You may want to be open or to trust or to feel closer to someone to move forward in your life with more ease, and yet there's something in you that holds you back. Not always in these obvious ways. Sometimes it shows up as overthinking or hesitation or just pulling away just slightly. That feeling of resistance or that struggle to fully understand why. Why am I feeling this way? You might even find yourself asking, well, why am I like this? Why does this feel so hard? Why can't I just move through this? Well, if you've ever felt that, it's important for you to hear. Hear this clearly. There's nothing wrong with you. Not a thing. I'd like to share something with you that might help this to make sense. When I was about 2 years old, I almost died. Somehow I contracted a rare virus, and I remember scenes of being in the hospital. I wonder if ever something like that has ever happened to you. I remember what the procedure was, and that there was this kind nurse that gave me a stuffed animal. It was a dog, and maybe that's why I love dogs to this day. I mean, it's a possibility, right? I'm sure that I felt somewhat afraid and confused, and I know very vulnerable. But it was too much for me to process at the time. So as I grew at around the age of 4 or 5, I recall becoming terribly shy. I would hide behind my father when he would take me out on a Saturday morning shopping. I clearly remember how I felt. It was hard for me to make eye contact with adults or engage in a pleasant conversation. That shyness affected me in so many ways through later years. And that very early experience and the emotions that I felt really weighed on me. I don't feel like it was conscious, but it weighed within me, right? And perhaps you've experienced your own moment that somehow shifted you and that you've lived with for a very long time and not recognizing why you're like this or why it feels so hard or that you have challenges that you're moving through your day. Again, there is nothing wrong with you because what we often call a tangled heart isn't something that's broken. It can be something that has been trying to protect you. At some point in your life, whether you were aware of it or not, you experienced something that your system didn't quite know how to process in the moment. It could have been something painful maybe something like what I experienced, or something confusing, or something overwhelming. It's not like we don't feel overwhelmed from time to time, or even something really subtle, like something undetectable. And perhaps you experienced that over and over again without even really recognizing it. It then became your story to retell yourself. Instead of fully moving through it, a part of you adapted. You learned. You created ways to stay safe, to avoid pain, and protect your heart. And those adaptations, those protective patterns, they don't just disappear, they don't go away, they stay, they linger. And what they do is they become layered. They become layered within inside of us and they build. And over time, they can start to feel like what you perceive is you. But think about it. You brought all of your experiences with you, all of your emotions, but then you're kind of running on this program of old emotions. Here's something to begin to shift. And let's stay with this for just a moment. What if you've been calling a problem is actually protection? What if the hesitation, being on guard, that overthinking isn't weakness, but wisdom that formed at a time when you needed it? Hmm. Because your heart doesn't tangle just randomly. It tangles around experiences that weren't fully processed. It tangles around emotions that didn't feel safe to feel. In those moments where something in you had to close, had to shut down in order for you to continue. Maybe this feels a little familiar to you. And the important thing to understand is this: your system, your body, your energy is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It was protecting you. Now, the challenge is once something that protected you may not be serving you anymore. Those patterns don't automatically update. Kind of feels like a computer, doesn't it? And in a way, we are. So you might find yourself holding back when you want to be open or staying quiet when you really want to express yourself. I know that used to happen to me a lot as well. I'd stay quiet. I wouldn't speak up for myself. Or maybe you pull away when you actually really want connection. You're still running off of that old program of, I need to be safe. And it can feel really confusing, but the confusion begins to soften the moment you can shift from, what's wrong with me, to, what is this trying to protect? How am I trying to protect myself? It can be a little scary to feel vulnerable. Healing doesn't begin with forcing yourself to change. It begins with understanding, with recognizing that there's a part of you that learned to respond this way for a reason. And instead of pushing that part away or judging it or trying to override it, you begin to meet it differently. It's a thought, isn't it? Meet it differently with something called awareness, with curiosity, with compassion, especially self compassion, right? We're so used to being compassionate and loving for others. And sometimes we leave ourselves out, or we often leave ourselves out. So I have this question to ask you. What if nothing about you needs to be fixed? What if something simply needs to be seen, to be recognized, to be brought into the light? Because when something is finally seen, it doesn't have to stay held in the same way. It doesn't hide in the shadows anymore. It can begin to soften, to unwind, or basically untangle. I mean, imagine your heart and your emotions all wrapped up in this big knot, in this big ball. And little by little, if you get to see yourself, little by little, you can start to pull that string open and it starts to feel lighter. It starts to feel easier. It starts to feel less complicated. So we can begin in a really simple place. It's this. The next time you notice yourself pulling back or feeling tight or hesitating, instead of asking yourself, why am I doing this? Try asking instead, what part of me is trying to protect me right now? You might even want to ask yourself a deeper question. What do I feel I need to be protected from? And, just notice what comes up for yourself. Allow yourself this time to be just present to you. Self compassion. Don't overthink it and remove all of those distractions that we're so used to now, right? Remove all of those distractions and spend those few precious moments with yourself. Be curious. Observe. You can even say to yourself, that's interesting, right? There's no judgment in that. You may have judged yourself for a very long time. I know I did when I was a child and even when I was growing up. Why am I so shy? Why won't I speak up for myself? Instead of trying to come up with a solution, just observe. That's interesting. There's no pressure to change whatever comes up for you. No need to fix it. Remember, you're not broken. Just awareness. Because awareness is where everything begins to shift. Sounds like something that you can do? I'm sure you can. If something in this resonated with you today, just know you're not alone in this and nothing about your experience is random. Everything that comes to you is an absolute divine timing. And your awareness, the fact that you're just here with us today and listening and you've been led here, there's a reason for that. And if someone came to mind today while you were listening, please feel free to share this conversation with them. And if you need to listen to it a couple of times, please do. You can always find Untangling the Heart on YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever you enjoy podcasts. And be sure to please follow or subscribe so you don't miss a conversation, because you're important. This is your time, and you're ready. And thank you so much for being here today. Until next time, from my heart to yours.
We've all got stories we don't say out loud, little knots we hide away. You're not broken, you're just learning to be honest with what you feel today. This is untangling the heart, one brave breath, one tiny start, finding strength in every scar and every part. You're not falling apart, you're just untangling.